Carl and Liam here from Games, Brains, and a Head-Banging Life. gbhblofficial for short. This is new, kind of. If you follow the channel and followed us for a while, you will hopefully be aware of the Monday, 7 p.m. UK time, regular post of a track by track. We've been doing that for nearly 3 years without missing a week. It's 7 p.m. on a Monday, a random album broken down by track, and we talk them through in sort of concise, neater fashion. Basically, what you would call an album review in a more detailed fashion, because we do it by track, also ending the section with your 3 favorite tracks from the album. We've been gearing up for this for a while, trying to work out how we could do it. Of like, look, video game music is a major aspect of our love as well. How can we influence that? And can we do it via track by track? Bear in mind, you know, game music doesn't often always work that way. And truth be told, we realized we could. A video game soundtrack tends to be, here's the start, here's the end, these are the name tracks, and so on. We can follow along with that. So we're going to do that. We're going to be starting it off now. And we are going to begin it with one of my all-time favorite game soundtracks. It is the Thomas Was Alone soundtrack. So if you don't know, Thomas Was Alone is a puzzle platform game created by Mike Bithell, which was originally released as a Flash-based browser game in October 2010. Later, the game was then expanded and released for Windows and OS X in July 2012, and has now subsequently been released for everything. Linux, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Vita, Xbox One, Wii U, iOS, Android, Nintendo Switch. Put it this way, you got no excuses. You should have played this by right now. And if you've never played the game, it is really simple. Your basic controls, small or simple rectangles, representing artificial intelligence entities. Each one has a unique name and personality, including, of course, Thomas himself. And all of this is conveyed through the narration of voice actor Danny Wallace, whose performance was so good that he earned a BAFTA for it. And I can't praise his narration enough for this. What we don't get enough of is praise for the soundtrack. So the original soundtrack, it's out there. You can actually buy it on Bandcamp as a separate thing, is by David Housden. So good is this soundtrack that I own it on vinyl. That is the vinyl record of Thomas Was Alone.
Nice.
Yes, indeed. Very love that one. And the thing is, it's a clear beginning and end soundtrack. We are not talking 30 plus here. We're going to do the standard edition as well. That doesn't include the 2 extra tracks that came from the DLC. It's just a straightforward 11 tracks of Thomas Was Alone.
Yeah, I was quite pleasantly surprised at the length of it, because it's been a few years since I've played the game, and I really enjoyed it when I played it. But I actually haven't gone back and listened to the soundtrack until this moment, so it was quite nice to go back to it. It kind of took me back to my time playing it. And yeah, it is quite a short soundtrack, as the game itself is quite short.
Of course.
So yeah, it's not too difficult to talk through, really, is it? So
not at all, not at all. It should be noted though, I hear several of these tracks on a daily basis, but I'll explain why when we get to that. Okay, so the opening song is Where Are You? And this is just a lovely introduction. It's mellow, it's soft. There's almost a sort of filled with wonder feel to it, as though you're waking up and seeing light for the first time. I got that sense, the Thomas Was Alone sense of an awakening AI. I get it from this track.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as I mentioned, it's been a few years since I played the game, but this track actually, it took me back to my memories of playing it. And it just instantly gave me the imagery of, you know, a bunch of 2D shapes moving about the screen, and embarking on what the music makes sound like is an epic journey to come. You know, considering this is the first track, I think it actually perfectly encapsulates the game as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's played over the opening, well, the title screen, basically. People who want to know where it is. Then we get Inertia. This track is so good, it is one of my alarm clocks. I have this as an alarm. Now, you might think, why would you do that? Like, why would you have music you like as an alarm clock? That doesn't work for me. What actually works for me in all my alarms, and I've got several others, are things I adore so much. So when I hear them, I go, banging. I'm not getting up going, oh, fucking hate that because it's my alarm. I'm getting up going, banging.
It's interesting, because I found this to be a much more melancholic track compared to the more peppy, happier one maybe that came before it. And I really like it, though. I mean, no spoilers, but it might make a reappearance in my top 3. Yeah, it made me think of the struggle and the perseverance that is within the game that you experience. That's the kind of sense it gave me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the tone is fantastic. When it swells, it's simply brilliant. Then we have
I
hope.
agree.
Then we have hope. With a track title like this, you might almost expect this one to go big, but it actually holds back and takes a more subtle approach, kind of keeping things a bit more mellow, a little bit more subdued than you might think.
I agree. I would definitely agree on the subtle comment because I don't really have that much to say on it other than it just kind of continues the vibe that they've got going on and offers something a bit more uplifting than Inertia, which I thought was a bit more of a downer. Yeah. Not in a bad way, but
No, for sure, for sure. It's not.
yeah.
I get where you're coming from, but there's a darker one I think later on. But for now, we've united, we stand. Look, this is brilliant. The melody is fantastic. It's slightly animated, but light and wondrous. Here you get a blending of tones that almost makes it feel whimsical.
Well, for me, I didn't. This wasn't one of my favorites. It might be a bit low for me because I thought it was a bit messy. It kind of felt like they took a lot of the elements from the previous tracks and kind of mashed them into one, and it didn't work that well for me. But that's just my opinion.
No, that's it. That's exactly it. Track by track. We often divide when it comes to specific ones.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, divided we fall. This is one of the more sinister and darker tunes, one that conveys danger and defeat quite nicely.
Mm. Yeah, again, not that much to say except that I thought it gave a nice sense that there's a mystery bubbling under the surface, and that's slowly starting to unfold as the journey continues.
Well said. Ghosts of the Past, dramatic. This is really dramatic. It's actually quite sad. I get a lot of emotion from this one. I know what point of the game this comes at as well. So that kind of having that association helps.
Yeah, definitely. And I thought it sounded pretty bland and samey compared to all the other tracks. But then it hits a point in this minute and 20 seconds in the track, and it adds a new sound to the music. And I thought it really elevated the track. It's been one of the actual best ones on the whole. Yeah.
Ooh, nice. Alone Again. I love the isolation at the start of this one. It feels despondent, but not in an overtly obnoxious way. The idea, I guess, in this one as well is being alone, but also conveying the strength that Thomas has as a character.
Mm. Yeah, I found it nice and uplifting, but I didn't really have much else to say on it, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the always interesting thing is one when it comes to talking about a video game soundtrack. There's no like breaking down of a riff or a vocal line or this, that, whatever. So it's having some thoughts better than none. Lost.
Yeah.
Probably the most heartfelt one because of how it conveys the sense of loss. I think this is probably the most emotional sounding one.
Yeah, I thought it was something a bit different, which was nice. Nice bit of change of pace. But again, it kind of did feel like they were just taking a few elements from previous tracks, putting it, kind of jamming them together. It's not bad by any means, but nothing I'll be running back to re-listen to.
Okay. Time for a change. This is what it's all about. This is a track that says so much. Its intense power and defiance warms my heart.
Yeah, there's an epic nature to this track. I thought it really gives a sense the journey is building towards that huge crescendo within the ending. Yeah.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And then we get Escape, the penultimate track, and it's just an uplifting song. You feel like we're going to a big point in this game where we're supposed to be in these characters. It's just an immense uplifting quality song.
I thought it pretty much continued on from the previous track.
Yeah.
You could almost combine the two into one, really. And I really like the integration of violins they used in this track as well. It really added to it. And the moment when it really kicks into gear is at 1 minute and 8 seconds. It has a real epic feel to it, and the context of the moment and the story when this plays adds more weight as well.
Yeah, yeah. That brings us to the last track, and it's Freedom. So I said I had Inertia as an alarm clock. I also have Freedom as an alarm clock. This is the one. This is my favorite track on the entire soundtrack. This is a song that if I'm ever feeling a little bit down or whatever, I often just play, because this is simply phenomenal. It is brilliant. It moves me to tears. I think it moves through the stages up to what is a simply spectacular closing segment as we get there. And it's called Freedom. I mean, come on.
Mm. Yeah, much like I have commented before on some of the other tracks, where they have basically combined some elements from a lot of the other tracks into one, and I wasn't really a fan of that. But I thought this did it's in a similar way, but I thought it did it in a much more effective manner, basically, and it does it fantastically well. The heavy piano notes really hit hard, and everything comes together beautifully. I'm a sucker for heavy piano and violin in soundtracks, and so this hit perfectly for me.
Yep.
I thought without a doubt, it's the strongest piece of music on the soundtrack. Loved it. One I'll definitely go back to and re-listen again. And what is it about final pieces of music in video games? Normally in the credits or the last one you hear, it's always usually in games. It seems to be the strongest piece of music they save for last, and I do think they really did with the soundtrack.
Yeah, without going too off topic, when we eventually get to some of the Resident Evil games who have,
Yeah,
Jesus Christ, you talk about credit music there.
yeah.
But yeah, that's Thomas Was Alone's original soundtrack by David Housden. So, like the other track by tracks, we do what are our 3 track, basically our favorites / recommended. E.g., we want you to hear this, listen to these 3. So you can go first.
Okay, so for me, number 3, I put Inertia in number 3.
Okay.
I would put Escape in number 2 and Freedom in number 1. Easy.
Well, I'm not doing them in order. We don't do them in order. That's crazy talk. It's just 3, because otherwise, trying to put them in a 3, 2, 1 nightmare.
Not for me. I could do it.
But weirdly enough, we actually match up on 2. We actually do. I've got Inertia and Freedom as well. But the hint was there. They're my alarm clocks.
Yeah,
But the other one for me is United We Stand. That's my 3rd favorite. But to be honest, guys, I love this soundtrack so much that any of them really could have been the 3rd best one. Don't ask me what the 4th was. It's that kind of thing. But I do think if you want to get a good vibe, considering we both chose Inertia and Freedom, that should give you a big clue, like, as to those are the tracks that really give you the feel.
Completely agree. And I thought on the whole, it's a very solid soundtrack with no track that I would consider bad. And it gives you the sense of the epic journey and the highs and lows that Thomas goes through. I think it does suit the game perfectly. But if I was to be like overly critical, and it's just my personal opinion, I don't really like the bleep bloop sounds that play throughout a lot of the tracks. And I know that it makes sense in context of the game. It suits the game well, and it adds a little bit of a voice feel almost to the shapes. So it has that. I'm just not really a sound of the like. I'm not really a fan of the sound effects, and I think some of the tracks might actually have benefited without it. Like we took that out, might even have sounded even better. But like I said, no bad tracks at all. And yeah, that's just personal preference.
Nope, I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Before we wrap this up, I just want to give a shout out. If you do know them as well, do make sure you check out the extended version. It includes Clear Skies and Gravity from the DLC. Gravity is another banger as well. But yeah, there you go. That's track by track for Thomas Was Alone. You got any thoughts, Nick? You know what to do. Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?